Recap and analysis of Fallout Season 2 Episode 7, The Handoff. The 7th episode of Fallout Season 2 was released a few hours ahead of schedule, which merely gives us more time to sit in astonishment and take in everything it has to offer. The Handoff drastically upends the status quo over the course of its 48-minute running length, revealing long-kept secrets, new alliances emerging and collapsing, and an epic clash in the streets of New Vegas. It's one of the most exciting episodes of the season. Let's get started straight away because we have a lot to talk about. Beyond this point, Fallout Season 2 Episode 7 contains full spoilers. The Handoff opens with a flashback that completely took me off guard, a look into Steph's, Annabel O'Hagan, life prior to the bombs going off. Steph's huge secret is revealed. When Chet, Dave Register, discovered Steph's pre-war ID back in episode 204, he discovered that she was Canadian and older than 200. I'll admit that when I watched the episode, I kind of ignored the Canadian portion, but now that we see Steph leaving the nation and killing her way into the United States after losing her mother, it becomes pertinent. An intriguing piece of Fallout mythology is made possible by this. Canada was conquered by the United States before World War I and is frequently referred to as the Big 51, as it becomes the 51st state, in both the program and the games. I won't lie, given the current condition of world politics in our own planet, it strikes rather differently. This clearly causes a lot of resentment, as evidenced by Steph's mother's final advice to consider the individuals she must kill as Americans rather than as human beings. In addition to providing us with a peek of that awful transition, Steph's construction differs greatly from that of the other Vault 31 management trainees. She is a real murderer. Later in the present, that reappears when Chet finds Woody's shattered glasses stuck in his and Steph's sink's garbage disposal. He comes to the inevitable conclusion that Steph has hurt or even killed Woody. This culminates with Steph trying to coerce Chet into marrying her at their wedding. He finally gets his act together and tells everyone in Vault 32 her major secrets. As the Vaultdwellers demand answers, Steph is chased into the overseer's office at the end of the episode and breaks under the pressure. The fact that Steph forces Betty, Leslie Uggams, to give up Hank McClane's remembrance box is another significant development for Steph in this episode. We don't learn what's inside, but it can't be anything positive if Steph wants it. Steph and Betty are becoming more tense, and I don't think things will get any better in the end. We learn another thing about Steph in this episode, but before we can talk about it, let's talk about Cooper Howard's pivotal flashback scene. Good day, Mr. President. Fortunately, Fallout doesn't leave us wondering what will happen to Cooper Howard, Walton Goggins, and his wife Barb, Frances Turner, after episode 206, in which we witnessed Barb remove the cold fusion relic from a young Hank McClane who was unconscious after it was revealed that the Enclave was attempting to control the end of the world. The primary conundrum Cooper and Barb face is who they will give the world's most potent technology to if they don't give it to Robert House, the most powerful person in the world. However, they must get Hank back to his room before they can decide. We learn that Steph eventually traveled to Vegas and secured a position as a maid in House's hotel. Her desire to enter a vault is intense. Cooper tells her to ask Hank when he wakes up, but it's clear that he's not going to support them and assist her. This apparently explains how Steph entered Bud Askin's management program via Hank. I had no idea that I wanted all of this past for Steph, but it definitely makes her a much more compelling character. In the end, Cooper chooses to have a meeting with Diane Welch, Martha Kelly, the American congresswoman he witnessed getting ejected from the House Hotel earlier in the season. She persuades Cooper that giving the cold fusion technology away to the US president is the most moral thing to do because she is well versed in it. He won't have any hidden agendas and will undoubtedly just give it away to the public. Cooper agrees, naively. He and Welch get into a car near the end of the episode and give the relic to the president, who is portrayed by none other than sci-fi film icon Clancy Brown. At that point, Fallout's actual cascade of revelation starts to hit you so quickly that it will melt your mind. Lucy finds herself in a real Fallout predicament. Returning to the present, Lucy, Ella Purnell, and her father Hank, Kyle MacLachlan, attempt to resolve a tense issue. By the end of the previous episode, Lucy had given in and stopped an NCR soldier and a Legion member from killing each other by using Hank's mind control device. She continues to struggle with the ramifications and specifics of the brain-computer interface. Hank describes the subtleties of the device and how it hollows out a person's memories to make them more flexible in the unsettling sequences that follow. It's difficult to decipher McLaughlin's portrayal of Hank. He's charming and ostensibly compassionate, but there are hints of the domineering megalomaniac below. He also teaches Lucy how to drive a golf cart, which is one of the more endearing scenes that truly brings this peculiar balance home. Even though you know it's completely terrible given everything Hank has done, you still want these two to get along. When Lucy sees the Legion soldier she had to mind control in the previous episode courteously sweeping the floors and Hank shows her a door deep into the compound that purports to have the mainframe behind it, the moral dilemma of the brain-computer interface finally dawns on her. It would be worthwhile to utilize the mind control chips if they could transform the Legion from a murderous gang into law-abiding citizens. The question of whether to essentially lobotomize every member of the Legion or let them to roam freely over the wasteland is reminiscent of a Fallout game. Either option would have unanticipated repercussions. I think the show does a fantastic job of portraying the overall tone and vibe of the franchise. But Lucy is able to hold on to her morals for a little while longer. She discovers while dining with Hank that the former NCR soldier who was nice to her is serving them. However, his memory has now been erased. He has no memory of her or the new California Republic. Lucy's determination is strengthened by this, and she binds Hank to a kitchen drawer before grabbing his Pip-Boy and going back to the mainframe door in the hopes of shutting down the entire mind control system. However, what she discovers inside isn't just an electric mainframe, rather, it's the severed head of Diane Welch, complete with a straw shoved into its mouth to deliver a drip of nourishment and several scientific devices attached to it. Gnarly and incredibly Fallout, much like the moral quandary. This disclosure clearly indicates that Cooper Howard's intention to give away the cold fusion technology by giving it to Welch and the president did not work out. In the end, we must find out more about that. A confrontation along the New Vegas Strip. On the surface, the ghoul, Walton Goggins, teams up with Thaddeus, Johnny Pemberton, and Maximus, Aaron Moden, in an attempt to go to Robert House's building in the middle of the main New Vegas Strip. The Deathclaw's continued presence is the sole issue. The gang must prepare. The NCR warehouse where they do this is full with Easter eggs, particularly the weapons, the majority of which are made to resemble their video game equivalents. It's intriguing to watch how Maximus, Thaddeus, and the ghoul are paired. All three of these men have experienced their fair share of trauma in the wasteland, in contrast to Lucy and the ghoul, who had completely different personalities that frequently fought. It makes for some interesting conversations, and the dialogue particularly shines here when the ghoul informs Maximus that they have returned to their starting point, a bit of wisdom that holds particular significance for the ghoul because, after hundreds of years, he is once again in possession of the cold fusion relic. And Maximus, who is wearing a brand new, exquisitely constructed NCR power armor suit. Prepared, the three march straight to the gate leading to the Deathclaws at Freeside since the ghoul thinks the vault where Hank is keeping Lucy is beneath House's casino. For the group of Freeside residents who amusingly follow Maximus all the way to the gate, I laughed at the outlandish costumes. Unfortunately, Thaddeus' arm physically falls off at this time, forcing him to withdraw from the battle. As it happens, his ghoul mutations are far worse than those of the ghoul. I'm interested to see how this plot develops throughout the program. Maximus faces off against some exquisitely crafted Deathclaws inside the strip. The ghoul brandishing a Gauss weapon, Maximus fist-fighting a Deathclaws, and several vicious turns as the monster attempts to consume them are all part of this spectacular action. Fortunately, Maximus buys the ghoul the time he needs to enter House's casino. However, Maximus remains to continue battling the Deathclaws. He crashes straight through the entrance to Freeside once the combat goes awry, releasing these animals on the general public. The ghoul swiftly moves to House's room after entering the complex and turns on the cold fusion apparatus. When House's computer boots up, his visage appears on the screen. Given how he was portrayed in the video game Fallout, New Vegas, it seems fitting that House would make this kind of appearance as the season's end approaches. What inquiries will the ghoul pose to this ghost of his past? What responses will the House provide? I'm eager to find out in the second season finale. Norm asks for assistance. Norm, Moises Arias, a prisoner of the angry Vault 31 management trainees, is the final character in The Handoff, who we spend time with. When Norm wakes up, he hears them plotting his murder, but he is quickly rendered unconscious once more. When he awakens again, Claudia, Rachel Marsh, is attempting to assist him in getting away. But instead of fleeing to the hills, Norm uses the radio in the Vault Tech offices to request assistance. As he accomplishes this, we witness Hank's radio in the New Vegas vault receiving his request for Lucy's assistance. Hank and Lucy are not present to hear it. However, if it has a record feature, maybe one of them may find it in the season's last episode. But when the Vault 31 managers learn that Norm is free, his SOS is cut short. Norm and Claudia are last seen battling the fury of these long-dormant Vaultdwellers. Norm barely moves a little bit, but considering everything else that occurs in this episode, it seems appropriate. We spend some time in Vault 32, but we also follow Norm, Lucy, and the ghouls since their journeys may soon come together. The power of the brain-computer interface is also surprising, and it's not who you may expect. In Fallout Season 2 Episode 7, Who is Steph? This episode provides us with additional background information, and we recently discovered that Steph was from Canada. Steph and her mother are probably trying to escape the country, but her mother is murdered right before they get to the border. In order to ensure her survival, Steph even kills the man at the US border so she won't be prevented from entering. She was able to travel to Las Vegas from there, where she worked at House's Hotel and met Cooper. Cooper indicates that she should talk to Hank when she expresses her desire to work at Vault Tech, and it is now evident why Steph was aware of Hank's box. Steph assures Betty that she would fulfill her half of the agreement, but we must note that she never made that guarantee. Vault 33 will be able to endure, but there is more going on with Steph. Woody has been harmed by her, as evidenced by the disposal of his glasses. When Chet discovers them, he chooses to destroy them. He's a smart man, so I suppose he realized he wasn't safe in the flat. He reveals Steph's true identity and what she did to Woody to everyone during the wedding, in front of witnesses. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out, but the shock and revulsion when Chet reveals she's from Canada does make me wonder more about what was happening in the world before the bombs. Everyone is knocking on Steph's office door to find out what's going on as the show comes to a close. We also do. What became of Norm? Norm was apprehended 2 episodes prior, and when we come to his plot in Fallout Season 2 Episode 7, we learn that the others continue to knock him unconscious as they attempt to figure out what to do with him. Claudia tries to release him. Things seem to stop when Hank is mentioned. Additionally, Norm makes it apparent that he must complete a task before departing. He makes an attempt to communicate with Lucy. As it happens, the radio has a connection to New Vegas. Hank was attempting to contact someone at the former Vault Tech offices, then, when all of Bud's buds were awakened, was this Bud's grand scheme? The cold fusion goes to the ghoul. Thaddeus, Maximus, and the ghoul continue with their larger portion of the narrative in the meanwhile. Weapons are the best means for them to enter New Vegas. Maximus is also given the privilege of donning a suit of armor bearing the NCR emblem. Brand recognition should never be undervalued. Due to the NCR suit, individuals in the New Vegas area swiftly catch up. Maximus strives to eliminate the death clause so that the ghoul can enter New Vegas while Thaddeus loses his arm, rendering him worthless. Maximus concurred that since giving the ghoul the cold fusion would free Lucy from her predicament, it might be the best course of action. The ghoul doesn't tell Maximus everything, but it's the least he can do.